Good afternoon. Good to see all you friends in the audience here on campus as well as on Zoom. We have a real treat today. We have Charlie Cloud, who is in the respiratory therapy area, and she's going to speak to us about carry-on only luggage for days and weeks. And if you know Charlie, she is an expert in this area. She has traveled internationally for years. I was talking to her before. She just came back from Iceland not long ago and is heading for Scandinavia in a few weeks. So please join me in welcoming Charlie Cloud.
Hi, everybody. I can't see the audience. My husband says I'm vertically challenged. I think he's right. So I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'm happy to share with you what I have come to find works very well for me. I've traveled, as Anita said, quite a bit. And over the years, it was all at spring break when I was here at the college, and had some amazing trips, never took the ability to travel for granted. So we'll dive in. What I thought we might discuss today is we're going to talk about packing carry-on luggage for a few days or a few weeks, and how to prepare for the possibility that you're forced to check your carry-on luggage. I'll address why that's getting to be a challenge, even with best laid plans. And then we'll talk, if we have time, a little bit about safety tips for traveling aboard. But I suppose the first question needs to be, do you even want to do carry-on? I realized early in my travels that if I pack it, I have to carry it. And there was always the possibility that the luggage was going to get lost. And when I started to travel abroad, when you rent cars and you're going through all the quaint little villages, the cars are small, the space for luggage is limited. So there really are several reasons why the smaller luggage is to your best advantage. But I get it. First, you've got to believe it, and you've got to want to do it. So are you among many of my friends that I invited to try this, those who immediately think of 2 or more reasons why you can't possibly just do carry-on luggage, such as you have to have several pairs of shoes. You just got to, okay? You've got to have different clothing choices for every day or occasion. You need more liquid toiletries than you can possibly get in a 1-quart bag. And I think we're stuffed with the 3-1-1 where, you only can do 3 ounces of liquids, 1-quart bag per person. You couldn't possibly stay under the airline weight limits for carry-on. You don't want to drag and guard a suitcase all around the airport. And you're not sure you can lift that bag into the overhead bin. Well, carry-on does take some planning, but shoes, you can really just wear 1 really good pair of walking shoes, pack a second one, and perhaps even a dress shoe. Options for every occasion. You got to have different options for every occasion, or so you think. With planning, you can mix and match 2 clothing colors to create mini outfits, or what I ran across just recently, a term, a capsule wardrobe, which was defined as each piece can be worn in various settings, all items mix and match, all colors should work well together, shoes should be neutral and suitable for all outfits, and then you need to know the weather of your destination. It's going to be hot, it's going to be cold, it's going to be dry, it's going to be wet, so that you're ready for whatever. Liquid toiletries, you probably need less than you think you do. And what I challenge my friends to do is go ahead and put it all together. Get the little 3-ounce bag or bottles, fill it with the things that you think you're going to need. Do that a couple of months before you're going to travel and use them. Inevitably, you're going to have some left over. It's amazing. You think you've got to have more than you really need. The weight limit, if you use some of these suggestions, you'll find that by mixing and matching and taking less, it all weighs less. And domestically, weight limits really are not as imposed. Where you start to run into them weighing your luggage is the international flights. Dragging and guarding that bag around the airport. Well, the new four-wheel spinner suitcases have basically no drag. And yes, of course, you'll need to protect and watch your bag, but most of the time you're traveling with someone, so that can be a shared responsibility. But here's the big one. You do need to know if you're physically able to put luggage in the overhead bin. Don't assume someone will help you. Often someone will, but don't assume it. You've got to be ready to do it yourself. Good body mechanics are very important to avoid injury. And if you struggle too long in the aisle trying to get that bag up there, the flight attendant's going to notice you, and that's going to raise attention to your bag, and all of a sudden you're going to be asked to gate check it. So I'm in the gym every morning, and when I get a gentleman trying to be chivalrous, offering to put my bag above me, I always say, that's why I lift weights every day. I had a friend who used to travel a lot, and he said, I just hate it when these little old ladies get on the plane and think that I should lift their heavy bags, you know. So what are the benefits? Well, as I see it, they're big ones. No lost luggage. No waiting for luggage at a carousel. You in and out of customs faster internationally. Easier rerouting if you miss a flight. And I have to stop and tell you this story, because this was when I checked my last bag. We were on our way to Russia. We were going to fly into Helsinki, Finland. We had allowed a 4.5-hour layover in Chicago. So we were going Kansas City to Chicago, Chicago to Helsinki. They put us on what was referred to as ground hold in Kansas City. So 3 hours and 15 minutes later, they finally let us take off for Chicago. And I thought, well, no problem. If the weather, which is what we heard was the problem, is as bad as they say it is, then the planes aren't taking off from Chicago either. Our plane will be there. Got quite the education. Missed our flight by 5 minutes, because if they get any window, they get those big boys out of there going across the Atlantic. Had never missed an international flight before. Walked up to one of the gentlemen, TSA, and asked, where do I start? We're at O'Hare. I hate O'Hare. And they said, you're going to have to get in that line that's wrapping around the airport, and they will get you taken care of, but it's going to take a while. As I walked away, something made him say, do you have any luggage other than what you have with you? And I was able to answer, I did not. He got a great big smile on his face, took me out of security, as if I'd walked off the streets of Chicago up to a counter, and said, she has all her luggage with her. She just missed the Helsinki flight. The gentleman who rebooked me in nothing more than 20 minutes must have said 15 times, if you had checked your luggage, I could not do this, because you have to stay with your luggage. So the other benefit is it's a lot easier when you've got smaller luggage to deal with your staterooms on cruises. I mean, usually they have some room for the luggage underneath the beds, but if you've got great big 36-inch suitcases, good luck. And train berths are a real challenge for larger luggage. I was traveling with a friend, and we had a shared train berth. We found one little spot that we could put both of our little carry-on bags, and we had seen many people boarding and wondered how on earth they were managing those huge bags. We opened the door to go to the dining room, and we knew what they were doing. It was actually a hazard. All those big suitcases were out in the hall because they couldn't get them into the room to go through them. Okay, so if you consider trying carry-on, it may help you to know that after you travel, whether you're by yourself on a tour or a cruise, the travelers you met will never remember what you wore. So you're almost always able to take a bath. So that's going to allow you to wear clothes more than once. Liberal use of deodorant is obviously important. Dryer sheets in your suitcase. That's a great way to keep things smelling a little bit fresh. And then there are these little bitty tiny shout wipes and Tide stain sticks. They take up almost no room, and they're great for accidental stains. I don't remember where we were in France, but we went into a nice restaurant, and the waiter who delivered the glass of wine to my husband stumbled as he approached the table and got it all over his nice yellow polo shirt. And I was able to take that back to the hotel room and work on it with the shout wipes and wash it in cold water and shampoo. And we went on with our trip with the yellow polo. If you're going to go for hot destinations or very long trips, you probably do need to think in terms of trying to plan to do laundry at some point. And that's usually not that much of a challenge. Underwear. Underwear takes up a whole lot of room. I mean, think about it. If you're on a 7 or 8 or 10-day trip and you've got a pair of underwear for every single day that you're not, you can buy disposable. But if you're not going that route, it really does take up quite a bit. So wear a set and take a set, maybe 2 sets. Pack 1 set in your smaller bag, just in case you're forced to gate check, and plan to wash underwear every night. Women's underwear generally dries pretty quickly. We did run into some trouble with my husband's undershirts not drying overnight as much as we wanted. And then we discovered, actually it was at Bag and Baggage here in town, but I've since found on Amazon, they sell quick dry undershirts for men. So you can go that route. A good pair of walking shoes and a dressy shoe. You want that dressy shoe to also be comfortable. I mean, you're on vacation and you're doing probably more walking than you're used to. And so your little 3-inch heels might not be the way you want to go for this trip. 1 pair of shoes should be water-worthy. I'm thinking in particular of a trip to New Zealand. We really were glad we had taken the kind of shoes that could go dry, wet, whatever. But I also discovered on that trip and had taken, those are as thin as they look, these little booty type things. I mean, they aren't much bigger than an envelope, and they just stretch right over whatever shoe you're wearing, and that solves that problem. For space, shoes are great. They can be stuffed with small items like socks and belts and the underwear. Your electrical wall adapters and converters can go into your shoes, so you're saving room that way too. Really helps to pack wrinkle-resistant clothes. I like to say that some of the dresses I've had over the year, you could drop them in a corner and come back in a week and they still wouldn't need ironing. So there are some really helpful materials out there. Cotton and linen is going to crease easily. A better choice might include denim, wool, silk, polyester, nylon, or lycra. I've never, and my husband has never, traveled with denim. Denim doesn't dry. I mean, it just is very hard. And I may be a little bit snobby. I'm probably trying not to look so much like an American, with my jeans and gym shoes on. Blended fabrics also work well, like a 60-40 split with cotton and polyester. So what are you going to pack in this bag? Now, Anita's going to laugh me out of the room, but she knows my personality enough to expect this. It can really help to pack first on paper. I'm leaving for Scandinavia on May 18th, and I took all of my confirmation numbers and stuff off of here. But this is where I start. I color code everything so that green is all the travel stuff, red is all the lodging, and I boil it down to one sheet that's got all the information I'm going to need. Even day wear being black versus kind of a burgundy is going to be my evening wear. But what I had to start with was a good sense of what's my itinerary or what my activities are going to be. Now, this doesn't mean I can't flex and wear something different. I put it down that I'm going to do brown leggings and an aqua top on May, whatever. But that particular day, if I feel something different or the weather's a little different, I can and will switch. I'll never forget, before this kind of planning, I was in Egypt and we had an opportunity to ride camels. And so I rode camels in a full-length skirt and a top, kind of cinched them and made pants out of them. But with a little bit of planning, you can do this. What I really want to point out, remember we were talking about that capsule wardrobe. Pick a couple of colors, mix and match. If you look through this list, you'll see that I start out with about the third day down, because those first 2 days were all travel, brown leggings. Then the next day is black leggings. They have different tops, and then back to brown. Sometimes I'm going between leggings or skirts. But color-wise, I'm picking colors that I can mix and match tops with to make that work and take up less space. The same packing sheet, the back of that sheet has a list of all my others, and evening wear shoes and items in green would be packed in the larger bag, while the other items are packed in my smaller bag. Let you kind of look at that for a minute. All those things that you really want to keep with you are going to be in your smaller bag. We joined up in, I think it was the same Russia trip, with a woman traveling with her son, and they had had a flight that was delayed and had checked everything. She didn't even have the name of the hotel she was supposed to go to. I mean, and she'd missed our transports to the hotel, and all of her medication and everything was checked. I was like, no, that doesn't work very well. Okay, so now I just have some examples of what you could think about, with a couple of colors and tops that would go with either short sleeve versus long sleeve. If you're going to have both temperature ranges, you may have to take them both or one or the other. For evening wear, that dress that doesn't wrinkle, just a nice basic black dress that you can put all kinds of things on top of and change it entirely. On the, what would be your right side too? My right side too. I'm having trouble finding these anymore, but I used to be able to find, that's a reversible dress. So it's the same dress, just reversed. And without the reverse, or excuse me, with the pattern, you got one dress. And then with the solid black, you can do all kinds of things on top of that. So these are my worst pictures. Well, we're not there yet, but they're coming. So Amazon offers what I've used a lot, and they're referred to as scarf vest. And I'm not exaggerating that they fold up the size of a napkin and take up very, very little space and change a simple dress into a pretty nice little evening outfit. And so here's some examples of me in some of those scarf vests. And as you can see, each one of them is quite different. And then I probably have a dozen of these by now, but I thought I'd show you about a half dozen. I had a conversation with some ladies in Vietnam toward the end of a river cruise we were on. We'd gotten to know them well, and we were talking about the trip, and luggage and packing came up, and I mentioned that I had only brought carry-on luggage. And one of the ladies looked at me and she says, "You are kidding." because we dressed every night for dinner on this cruise, and this is the way I did it. And she had not noticed that it was one black dress underneath. She wouldn't, because these cover pretty well. My husband dresses sort of as he travels. He'll wear hiking boots, but he will wear a very wrinkle-resistant blazer and just a basic shirt. And then Dockers, I think most guys kind of know what Dockers are. They aren't really dress pants, but they're nicer than jeans, or like these shorts to jeans kind of things. And then he'll mix and match with colors as well. So let's get packing. Options. Packing cubes. I think most of you know that Clarissa Craig is the person that I've traveled with for years, and she has migrated to using packing cubes and likes them quite a bit. I've not quite made that migration yet. I do use them in my smaller bag for my wet toiletries and stuff like that, but I tend to do a little bit of rolling, which can help with not so much wrinkling. And I do what I call kind of a packet fold, which I'll show you here in a minute. So this is my favorite smaller underseat bag. Every trip, I wind up at Bag and Baggage or some kind of travel store looking for that perfect bag. It's like, it's out there. I know it is. There's got to be just the one that's going to just be perfect. I've used this one now probably for 6 or 7 years. It's just divided very well and works very well for me. We're looking here at the front compartment. And this is kind of what's going to be in the front compartment for me. Fortunately, electronics have gotten smaller. So many of our devices now will go from 240 to 110 with no problem. So we don't have to have those big converters and stuff like that. And you can plug with just a small wall adapter, you can plug your phone right in and off you go. So this has everything I need for my iPad, my smartwatch, my iPhone. It's all of the electronic stuff I need. It pretty much is in there, except for this little bag here, which has the wall adapters. We've got a case for sunglasses, umbrellas. This is noise reducing headphones for the plane. And if you've taken many tours now, one of the things they do that I just dearly love is when you're walking around and your tour guide is talking about what you're seeing, they've given you, and I don't know what they call them actually, little voice boxes that you can then put in your ears, which allows you to, not all 40 of you stand in one little cube. You can walk away and take pictures and still hear the narration for the trip. Over the years, I've stuck in a little poncho, an emergency blanket, heaven forbid I need it. We also have just a little notebook for writing notes down for helping with pictures later. And I laughed this morning when I looked at this again. Business cards. I remember the first trip I took after I retired. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have business cards, because you meet new people and you're having fun and you want to exchange information. So I made up business cards that said Charlie Cloud retired. Okay, so the main compartment of that smaller bag, this is just a nightshirt. I would probably put an extra pair of underwear in that. This little bag here is a gallon size Ziploc bag in which I've got an assortment of Ziploc bags. It's just amazing how handy it is to have those for different things that come up. Then we've got Kleenex, Sometimes I'll throw in a few, what do you call those, Dixie cups. And this is a travel size extension cord. Also in the main compartment, I'm going to have my wet toiletries, my dry toiletries, and then this is all meds. Someone told me early on, and it was just a great little tip. When TSA sees your meds go through, they assume everything in there is meds. So if you want to add a little container of bug spray or extra fingernail polish or whatever, I've never had that challenged. They've never opened that up and said, you can't have this in there. So that's a good little tip. Also in this main compartment, this little bag, I'm hoping the pointer's working. Is it? Great. Okay, this little bag has everything I might need on board for an overnight flight. So I wear contacts. I use disposables when I travel. It's got contacts in there. It's got, you can buy little tiny toothbrushes that have toothpaste already in them. And they really are not much bigger than a toothpick. Trying to think what else is in there. Earplugs, eye mask, a blow-up collar for my neck for resting. That's all just in that little bag. And then I still, despite the fact that phones have gotten a lot better with pictures, I still typically take a camera. This little bag down here, I've had around my neck as I've walked through the airport. It's got my passport. It's got some ready cash. It's got a sheet with important numbers, and that kind of stuff. So when you're packing, I'm going to make the point here in a minute, you want to make sure you leave room for that, because some of the TSA guys and the gate agents consider that a third bag that was around your neck. So you want to make sure you could get it in that smaller bag if you had to. So the packing order of that main compartment, typically underneath this nightshirt, I've got the plastic bags, the Ziploc bags. I didn't mention this, but that pink thing that you're peeking at there would be jewelry. I don't take anything that's worth anything, but, and I limit amount as well. So I just have a small bag for a little bit of jewelry. There's the nightshirt, and remember, in the center of that, you've got extra underwear and stuff. On top of that, then, we put all of the dry toiletries, the wet toiletries, and the meds. And then on top of that, we've got the camera, the onboard bag with all the stuff that you need just to try to get a couple of winks of sleep. And again, I remind you, be sure to have last-minute room in that smaller bag to put the bag you were wearing around your neck in case some smart aleck decides that's a third bag. This bag that I keep not replacing because it works so well also has side pockets. Of course, you have to empty your water as you go through security, but then you can fill it up again. I also have a water bottle that completely compresses and then pops up once you're in. Years ago, I bought these and loved them. They're just water bottle carriers that you can hook onto your purse. On the other side of this bag is another pocket, whoops, in which I put locks, and we'll talk about that. And that pocket might also hold a backup charger for my phone. On the back of this same bag, there is a pocket into which I can put all the paperwork. You can kind of see my daily packing sheet peeking out there. These are really nice to have. And I read recently, one thing they're really good for, it's just a little tray. It's got snaps on each corner. It unsnaps, so it's totally flat. and it slides right in with this paper work here. But the thing is, in a hotel room, you're always concerned you might leave something behind. And if your last night, you make a point of bringing it out and putting it on top of a dresser or on the bathroom sink, it's a good little reminder that, oh, I need to take this stuff and get it packed. And here I'm just trying to make the point that this bag also includes, you can see this right here, a way to slide over the handle of the larger bag. Now, if your bag doesn't have that, you can buy those things that you attach to the handle of the larger bag, and it just snaps up and over the handle with the bigger bag. So there you have it, the packed smaller bag, or at least my smack polymer bag. We're going to come back to this little find that I've had for years as well. So my husband's smaller bag is more of a computer bag, but it works really well for him. In his front pocket, he's got very similar things that I had, you know, Kleenex, eyeglasses. He also has an extra pair of glasses because he wears glasses, and an umbrella. And if you look down there, he also has lifesavers. I didn't know. These smaller bags in our house are almost always packed. So when I was taking these pictures, I just grabbed his bag and opened up that pouch, and it's like, didn't know about the lifesavers. Okay, that's a look into his bag. And he has, I think for men, he wears like an 8.5 or 9 shoe, a pretty small foot. And that's the flash for the camera that fit into the shoe. So that took up less room. And then we took the lens of the camera. We can take it off, but in this case, we just stuck it down between the shoes, and that worked well. His extra underwear, his wet toiletries, his dry toiletries, and then his meds. So on to the large bag. We both use pretty much the same large bag. It's got spinner wheels, and they are great. They really do not drag at all. What is allowed per airline varies a bit. This particular bag is 21 inches. And when you're measuring those bags, it includes the wheels. Okay. So, and then 9 inches deep is pretty standard. That's the inside of the bag. In the bottom of that bag, I try to think through putting hard stuff in the bottom of the bag, and I'll make a point about that here. I realized this morning I had 2 cameras because this is actually a really flat Canon camera that I've come to like better, and it slides right in. These are just rolled shirts for layering in case I need to warm up a bit. Shoes. I'm wearing black shoes, but there's a brown. You remember I was doing everything black and brown, so there's brown shoes. And then that's my dress flat that walks really well. And then in the middle there, that little square is just a tiny little purse for evening. So that's the way it would slide into the bag, all in the bottom. My next layer would be slacks, leggings, skirt, whatever I decided for the trip and for the weather. And it would then just kind of go on top. And then I made a discovery. I'm calling it a packing envelope. And it has just enough rigidity that what I've been able to do when I get to be the lucky random person that TSA decides they need to check my bag, you can tell them that if they'll just slide their hands down, because this all folds in on itself, you'll see in the next picture, if they'll just slide their hands down, they'll feel that. And if they'll just lift it straight out, you don't have to totally repack your bag when they've destroyed it. And typically what they're looking for, what they've seen on X-ray, is something hard and big in the bottom of the bag, which is why I started by hard stuff and whatever down in the bottom. And they don't fight me on that. They always ask that question, is there anything in your bag that will hurt me? I'm sure I'd tell you if there was, right? But you can say no and then tell them, and I have a divider. If you're looking for something big and bulky, it's at the bottom of the bag, just lift this out. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. So I choose to use that envelope to do those tops, those little handkerchief type tops that I was modeling for you earlier. And I get them all nice and folded and put them into the envelope. And then the envelope just is the next layer. So hopefully that makes sense, that you could then just grab that envelope and lift it out with the stuff that's now coming on top of it and not completely unpack my bag. Next would come my basic black dress. Sometimes I also throw in just a black skirt because I find some evenings I don't really need to dress up, but I'm tired of the leggings, so I'll keep my tunic top on and throw on a skirt and off we go. So that's what you're seeing here, is just the dress and the skirt. And then depending on the trip and the length and the temperature, 4 to 6 tops that would go with either the black or the brown, basically. I put them, this is actually my bed at home. I lay them on the bed, iron them with my hands, fold them, and make kind of a cube out of them. And then that slides on top in the bag. Notice the depth between this and the top of the bag. There's just enough for some extra stuff, but you really kind of have to try to resist it. Because if you pack max, the bag starts to look fat. And when your bag looks fat, those gate agents start picking on you. The top of the bag had a little zipped area, the lid of the bag, I guess you'd say, in which we all know that I wear berets all the time. So I throw in a couple of berets. This is just a shawl for evening, nylon, socks, whatever. And so they all go in that lid and get zipped in. And there you have it. One packed 21-inch bag. Now, laying on top of this bag is what I call my day bag or backpack. Once you get where you're going, you need a bag that's going to work for you to put your sunglasses, your umbrella, your water bottle, and all that stuff in there. And so that's another one. I'm always searching for the perfect daytime bag. And one of the requirements is that it be as flat as possible, because I'm probably going to slide it in on the very top of this bag, and I don't want it to be bulky and make the bag start to look fat. The other thing that you see laying there is a strap combination lock that goes all the way around the bag. And you can slide that kind of down on the side of this bag so it doesn't look like a big lump on the top. But it's important to have something to lock your bag with if they make you check it, I think. So at the last minute, after everything's packed, you want to maybe slide in a combination locking luggage strap. If the bag has to be checked, use it. Another bag that we just discussed that you'll use during the day for the water bottle, the sunglasses, the camera, and all that stuff. And if room allows, and every once in a while, especially with warmer destinations and thinner clothes, you can put a jacket, like a lightweight jacket or something, as the very last thing that you put in the bag. Now, if your destination is New Zealand, where I thought I was going to freeze, wear the coat, wear it on board. You can take it off as soon as you get on board, but go ahead and wear it, even if it's summer when you're leaving here. That's just a way to get it on. And once everybody has filled the overhead bins, you can usually stuff your coat in somewhere. So starting with that same basic bag for men, he usually takes a lightweight robe. And this is a find that I was excited about. That's an iron, and it works really well. Tiny little iron that just goes in that little bag it's laying on top of. This is a USB 8. It's a station of 8 USB ports, which is kind of nice. It works to share the space differently when we're traveling together. He's a bow tie wearer, so he does take bow ties and socks, underwear. And so that's his bottom layer. And then the next becomes just a real lightweight sweater and a real lightweight jacket that he puts in. Then he will do tops that go back and forth in terms of weather or color and with respect for weather. And then this is actually his dressiest pair of slacks. And then a pair of those slacks that you can unzip the pants leg and make them shorts. He likes those. He takes them almost everywhere. Now, sometimes I go ahead and put the whole or a whole, what did I decide to call it, packing envelope into his suitcase without putting anything in it, just for the division and the rigidity to lift out the stuff that's on top. I have even just put the inside of it and not the whole envelope. It's a little more sturdy than a piece of cardboard, okay? I saw this on the internet years ago, and it really works well for guys to put the waistbands into the suitcase and leave the legs out, and then go ahead and stack the shirts, fold the shirts, put them in, and then finally fold the legs in. And they don't get as wrinkled, and it seems to work really well. So if you're forced to check your bag, you're prepared if you take some hints from me. So now you can take out of your large bag that strap lock. And I made the comment here, pre-sized to fit your large bag. Probably the first time I had to use it. And by the way, I sat and looked at since 1990 with carry-on only luggage, how many times I've had to gate check my luggage, and I only came up with 4. So it's not like it happens all the time, but when it does, you got to be prepared. And the first time I needed to do it and wanted to use this was the first time I realized I needed to adjust it size-wise for my bag. So I'm on the floor in the gate having to struggle with that. So that's what I mean by pre-size it at home before you put it in the suitcase. So you know all you have to do is put it around and snap it. Small combination lock could be what you choose to use and not bother with the strap. I mean, you could just lock the 2 pulleys together. That works. And almost any kind of locks you can buy now are TSA approved. So you can do combinations, and they've got one key fits all to get into them anyway. So you're also going to grab that bag that you had put in for your daytime stuff so that you can stuff it with maybe the coat, the hat, the gloves. And remember, what you should already have in your small bag is all your travel paperwork with your flight destinations and information, medications, extra underwear and a nightshirt, your toiletries, your charging cords, your umbrella. That was all in your small bag anyway. So you should be good to go. Now, I said I'd come back to this many years ago as I was checking out at Bed Bath & Beyond, as I recall. They had these up at the cash register, and I thought, what the heck is that? That tiny bag opens up to this. And it's amazing, last minute I can just take that off my small bag if I want to, and even get the other day bag in it, along with the coat and the whole bed. And it's a backpack. Now I've had to reinforce the connection for the straps of the backpack over the years, but I looked up a couple of nights ago, and there are many versions of this with dimensions size-wise on Amazon. So they are out there, but I hadn't seen them recently in any, like Target or stores. Okay, so there are some tricks to avoid being asked to gate check at all. One thing is, that overzealous gate agent, he or she can really ruin your day. So you might consider paying extra for early boarding. Like everything else, it is going up in price, but it's still, I think, quite worth it, especially domestically to get out of the country. Because once you get on the big flights, overhead bin space has never been a problem. And I think there's still the mentality that if I'm going on a European trip, I'm not doing carry-on luggage, so a lot of people don't bother. Domestically, I think what we're realizing is because they're charging for checking luggage, people are shoving as much as they can into a smaller bag, knowing it's probably going to get flagged because it looks fat. But if it gets checked in the gate, there will be no charge. Okay, so another thing to consider is upgrading to premium economy. That allows for earlier boarding. And I repeat that it's the domestic flights that are more strict. The international flights, at worst, it will be the last leg of your flight, like you fly into Paris, but then you go ahead and fly on to Bordeaux, and the Bordeaux flight is a smaller plane, and you lose your luggage on those flights. So if your bag is checked in the gate, where can you expect to get it? Well, it varies. If you're exiting a domestic flight, I haven't seen it as much recently, but sometimes literally as you step off the plane, it's right there on the gangplank. Is that what that's called? The path you walk up to the gate. They'll literally bring them up the stairs and set them right there. Sometimes you got to go all the way down to those carousels with everybody else's checked luggage. If you're exiting an international flight, that varies from country to country. Sometimes you'll get it in immigration of the first country, and sometimes you may not see it to your final destination. Okay. And the last thing I thought I'd address a little bit is planning for a safe travel. I am really quite proud of the fact that I've taken the guidelines for safety very seriously. I've never lost anything. I've never had anything taken from me. And I traveled with some friends in France once, and we were traveling once. We were in France by car. And one of the things, I'm trying to think of his name, Rick Steves talks about, particularly in France, is it's a big deal to leave stuff in your car visible, marking you as a traveler or a tourist. And his suggestion is, let's create a scenario that you're leaving one hotel and you're moving on to another city and another hotel. But you've got all day, so you don't need to hurry to that second hotel. You're going to stop and you're going to visit some places, and everything's going to be in your car because you loaded up the car as you checked out of that first hotel, you want to make sure that it's in the trunk and not visible. And the friends I was traveling with didn't take me seriously. And the other thing Rick Steve says, and if you stop for breakfast to have a lovely baguette, don't suddenly remember you threw your camera in the trunk and go open your trunk and say to the world, hey, I'm going in for breakfast, but here's everything I own, while you get your camera out. And so I had a bit of a rant because that's exactly what happened. There were two couples, and the guy and the other couple said, oh, I forgot and left my camera in the trunk. And before I could stop him, ran around and opened up the trunk and got his camera out. And I said, okay, bring me a cup of coffee because I'm staying right here in the car. I was not going to leave everything we had with us out there for someone to have fun with. Okay, some things you can consider. Cable locks. If you've got long layovers in the airport, these can be really nice. If you can find like bolted chairs, just in case you go to sleep. Rick Steves, again, even says, if you will cable lock 2 or 3 bags together, most thieves have watched and think they're going to grab one bag. And when they realize there's 3 of them, they realize that's going to get too much attention and they'll just drop it and leave it. Clarissa and I have also, on occasion, if we felt a little uneasy in some hotel, we will cable our suitcases together in the hotel room. Same thing. You can use little combination locks to lock your luggage in the hotel. Or I had suggested earlier, you can use them just to lock your luggage if you have to check it. Unfortunately, you see these signs in every country, and particularly in high tourist areas, and I take them seriously. It's like, okay, if they're going to put signs up to tell me that there's a problem in this area, then I'm going to be careful. I just ran across this a couple of days ago and I thought, well, isn't that interesting? What they've done here is they've ranked different countries for the level of pickpocketing. And the top 3, if you can see that, are Italy, France. I was surprised at the Netherlands. But France, I'm not surprised at all. I've actually seen pickpocketing on the Paris metro. I mean, it's crazy. I refer to these as undergarment safes. I don't know if you've heard that terminology before, but the only thing I have of value in that day bag we've been talking about that has the water bottle and the sunglasses and all that is 1 credit card, a little bit of currency of the country, and usually a little bit of US currency. Everything else is in an undergarment safe. What this gentleman is using is what I started with when I first started traveling, and it works fairly well. It kind of looks like you got a lump under your shirt or whatever. The first time I ever needed one, I was going to visit a friend who lived in Costa Rica. I'd never heard of them. She told me about them and she said, be sure to get one and be ready to use it as soon as you get here. She met us back when you could go all the way to the gate for the airplane. She met us at the gate and she says, did you remember the undergarment safe we talked about? And I said, yes. And she said, where is it? And I said, well, it's in my little bag. She marched us promptly to the bathroom and had us put it on. She said, the worst place is the airport. She also made the point, which is sad to think of this. You know, I used to travel with my husband for a meeting in New York every January. Sometimes it was 60 degrees, sometimes it's 14 below. The streets of New York are scary. probably should have and could have used one of these, because the friend in Costa Rica made the point that in most other countries, they won't hurt you to steal from you. But if you make it available, she jokingly said, they think you want them to have it. So you really do just have to have that mentality. And I've had it now for years that it can't be easy for them to take. This is kind of a waist version of the same thing that could go under your shirt. I have chosen to wear these in the small of my back. One, I think it shows less of a bulge in your clothing. But I will tell you a funny story. We were at the Uffizi in Florence, and two couples again. The guys wandered off somewhere, and we identified that we needed to buy our tickets for the Uffizi right now in order to get in that afternoon. I had the most money, but it was on my back. And I'm standing out in the middle of nowhere, you know? So we backed up into a corner, and my girlfriend unzipped my dress, got out what we needed. So you can deal with it, but you need to deal with it is the point that I'm trying to make. It just can really ruin your trip not to take these precautions. And I thought this was kind of glamorous, but that doesn't look like it would hold much to me. But it makes the point that you can either conceal it or wear it over. And women should not have bags that are swinging in the breeze. You know, it's like you really want crossbody bags that stay close to you. My husband has used this, like a leg safe under his slacks. He says they feel funny, but they hold enough and they do work. And this is his preference. It holds plenty and it flips then inside your slacks. And he really thinks that works best for him. There are different varieties of money belts that you can buy and use that probably would work fine. I've not used one. And that, my friends, is all I have to offer. So. Any questions?
Yeah. Let me just formally thank Charlie. That was amazing, the amount of information that we just that you just shared with us. And you're not only an expert, you're an expert. It's just unbelievable. And you did it so well and so clearly. And I also want to acknowledge Marilyn Garnes, who is doing all the technology for us and setting this all up. But Charlie is willing to entertain maybe 5 or 10 minutes of questions if anyone would like to ask her. Okay, Charlie. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So are there any in the chat room, Marilyn?
I will repeat my question. Not actually a question, but just something that maybe is to add on, something that has helped Pat and I in the last couple of years an awful lot is getting set up for TSA pre-check.
I didn't think to mention that, and I have been forever. In fact, the first time, if you didn't hear the question, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Chip here says that he and his wife, I'm assuming, have used TSA pre-check, which also is a good way to get to board early and get through all of the hoops, if you will. The first time I did TSA pre-check and global entry at the same time. I didn't appreciate that if you do global entry, you automatically have TSA pre. So
we just flew out of Seattle a couple of days ago, and the difference between going through security is the TSA as opposed to the not. I bet you that saved us half an hour.
I believe it.
So it costs a little money. It takes a while to get it, but it's worth it.
Some chats questions on here. Let's see if I can get to them. Here we go.
They're good for 5 years though, once you have it, which is good.
So if you want to start at the top, some of them are just tips, but I think some people are asking, let me see if you can unmute here too. You can go ahead, or you can scroll down and see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I agree with Mary Jean. I always make a copy of my passport, license and everything also and put it somewhere just in case. You know, and I know you could take a picture on your phone, but if something happens to your phone, you know, but that's what I always do, just make a photocopy of that stuff. But Mary Jean already had said that. I think it was you, Mary Jean, that
Mhm.
put that tip up there. Oh, well, somebody put that up as a tip.
Right,
It was, but I just in case.
right.
And great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, Clarissa, Craig and I had traveled at spring break 34 years in a row. And something that we routinely did was I always had a copy of her passport and passport photos on my back, and she had mine on hers. We learned from friends who had the misfortune of losing their passport that with a copy of your passport and photos, if you go to the embassy, it's a piece of cake. But without all that, it can be quite a hassle.
Marilyn, are there other tips on that you're seeing?
Well, Charlie is looking through them right now, and I think there was the very first one was the safety pin, which is kind of Charlie mentioned. You can use a TSA approved lock to pin
Your luggage together. Well, I think what the person was saying is, let me go back to that, is I take a safety pin and pin the two clasps together so it won't unzip. And also if the pin is gone, then you know somebody's been in it. So I take that to mean in lieu of a lock. And someone also suggested a spray bottle with water for your clothes just to get wrinkles out and stuff. I got hook, line, and sinkered into something, I haven't tried it yet, and it may work, on Facebook the other day that's specifically for that. And it's very small, so it's not going to take up much room. Did somebody have their hand up? Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Any that are online? Charlie?
Not that I'm seeing.
Hey, Charlie, can you hear me?
I can.
This is Dave. I don't know what happens sometimes when you're traveling to a destination and you're not sure if it's going to be cold there or warm there. And sometimes you have to figure out, should I bring winter clothes or summer clothes? How do you work out with your bags?
When I stumbled across the true definition of what I think was referred to as a capsule wardrobe, that same blog addressed the fact that you need to check the weather for your destination 10 days before you go, 3 days before you go, and even 24 hours. But quite frankly, Dave, I'm always prepared to layer. So I always have like thin undershirts and stuff like that. And
Good.
and shoes that are wet worthy that I mentioned, and or those little boots that you can pull on over them.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think we're gonna wind this up. I just want to tell this one last story. When I took over the Travelogue, a number of people came up to me and said, please, oh, whoops. Thank you. When I took over the Travelogue, this is Anita Tebby, several people came up to me and said, if you do anything, would you please have Charlie Cloud come back and give us all her tips on how to travel internationally as well as domestically? And I can now see why, because it's the first time I've heard her. But Charlie, you have a wealth of information. when, in all your spare time, and I know you travel extensively, you might want to write a book. So, yeah. But anyway, this was way beyond any expectation that I had. And again, I know you spent hours and hours preparing this. Marilyn, thank you for your expertise. Thank you, friends, for coming on Zoom and in person. Let's give Charlie one last hand.